Thank you, Leader. The recording has started. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Vale of Glamorgan Cabinet meeting on the 7th of July 2022. I'm Councillor Liz Burnett, Leader of the Vale of Glamorgan Council, and I'll be chairing the meeting. If I could first apologise to the pupils and staff of Ysgol y Derry that I wasn't able to join you for your big lunch today. It's usually a highlight in my calendar, but today diary commitments proved too great. I look forward to hearing from Councillor Rhiannon Birch, who was able to join you, and I'm hoping that she's hot-footing it back to her computer at the moment, so should join us shortly. Today we'll be discussing our programme of work, our leisure centres, highway resurfacing, the local development plan, and how we'll monitor our performance going forward. May I remind members and officers that the meeting is being live streamed, recorded, and will be uploaded to the Vale of Glamorgan Council's website as soon as practicable after the meeting. So if I can just make sure I have the right papers in front of me, that would be a help. So if we first of all move on to agenda item 1, and that's apologies for absence. So I don't think at the moment, as I said, I'm waiting for Councillor Birch to join us. She might be slightly delayed, but that should be okay. And the rest of us are all here. So no apologies for absence at the moment. Agenda item 2 is the minutes of the Cabinet meeting of the 23rd of June 2022. If I move those as a fair and accurate representation of the meeting.
I'll second those, Leader.
Thank you. Are we all in agreement? Then agenda item 3 is any declarations of interest. No, none from anyone. That's great. And then moving on, we have a reference from the Governance and Audit Committee on the 13th of June 2022, and that's the Leisure Management Contract Year 9 Performance Report. I understand you were present, Gwyn, and you're going to take this reference. I think you're
sorry, John.
Right, I'm here at last. This is a reference for the Annual Services Report, Year 9, which was actually written last July 21. The report, first of all, was referred to healthy living and social care, and then on to audit and governance. Basically, the Audit Wales report concludes that the council has maintained its leisure provision and is receiving an income from its contract with Legacy Leisure Limited, but until recently lacked a strategy to shape the service, that there is a significant scope for the council to apply the sustainable development principle and focus on delivery of its well-being objectives through its contract with Legacy Leisure, and council has strengthened its management of the contract, but there is scope to improve arrangements to assure itself that it's achieving value for money. Response from the council to this Audit Wales report was the council continues to work to respond to Audit Wales review in the council's outsourced leisure services report, which was published in January 21. The report challenged the council to assure itself that the contract is providing value for money and strengthened the application of the sustainable development principle when it extends the contract. Officers have been able to demonstrate that the current contract provides value for money by undertaking a comparative exercise against all other councils in Wales. However, the council has acknowledged that there is further work required to strengthen the application of the sustainable development principle. This came from Healthy Living down to Audit Committee, and the Audit Governance Committee scrutinised the report in depth And this afternoon, I'd like to note the resolutions of the Audit Governance Committee and await the services report on year 10, which is now due in the autumn. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwyn. Yes, it's an interesting report, and I think that what we're seeing is that it's been a successful contract and allowed us to deliver leisure services in the Vale, which has actually delivered an income back to the Vale. But in some ways, we want to do a bit more than that, don't we? Is we want it to match up with our healthy living strategy and leisure strategy, so that we are helping people of the Vale to be as healthy and active as possible. So I think it's a real opportunity going forward into the autumn when the full report comes through, to actually look at how that can all be joined up. So that looks like a sensible approach going forward. So in which case, with the report coming forward, I would suggest that we note this report and wait for the further one. Are we happy with that?
Yeah.
Super. And then moving on to agenda item 5, and this is a regular report that we get, which basically lays out the work that we've done over the last 3 months. Obviously, part of that we weren't here, and looking forward in the July to September period this year. So if you look at Appendix A, which lays out the period April to June, you'll see that there was only one report that slipped, and if I'm not mistaken, that was the one, I'm just double checking on my papers. That's the annual Welsh monitoring report, which you'll find on page 13. Yep. That will be coming on the 21st of July, so at the next cabinet meeting. And if we look at Appendix B, the forward work programme in terms of July to September, then we have the people strategy and supporting documents that is expected in the September cycle of meetings. So that's been deferred. But then also, if you have a look at page 4 of Appendix B, it talks about the annual report, the section 106 agreements, and audit have advised that we don't have to bring that report any longer, because that's publicly available on the website, and it also is circulated to all members. So, you know, if there's anything people want to discuss, it can always be brought forward, but it's not necessary for it to come to Cabinet for consideration. So on that point, the recommendations before us are that the updates to the Cabinet Quarterly Work Programme for April to June 2022 attached to Appendix 1 be agreed, and that the Cabinet Quarterly Work Programme July to September 2022 attached at Appendix 2 be endorsed. Is that okay for everyone?
Yeah.
Actually, hang on, I'm just gonna double check something. I think either I've made an error in my notes or there is a slight typo. Bear with me, as I'm just going to show. It's my fault. I wrote Appendix A and Appendix B, and it's actually Appendix 1 and Appendix 2. So I will correct my own error there. So, as I said, it's Cabinet Quarterly Work Programme, July-September 2022, attached to Appendix 2 be endorsed, and I'd so move.
And I'll second those, Leader.
Yep.
Thank you. Everyone happy with that? Then Appendix, Agenda Item 6 is the Annual Performance Calendar 2022-23. And it's an interesting one because as a result of the Local Government Elections Act, which came into being in April 2021, there are new duties on all Welsh local authorities. And there are a number of duties which are outlined on page 4. It's sort of in section 2. So things like a duty to keep performance under review, duty to consult on performance, duty to report on performance, duty to arrange a panel assessment of performance, and duty to respond to a panel performance assessment report. And I think it's fair to say that performance monitoring has always been high on the agenda in the Vale of Glamorgan, and it's not something that's ever been a challenge for us. But this approach will help to further strengthen existing performance arrangements and enable us to meet the new performance requirements. You know, this performance culture is strong within the council, and we're very much of the mindset that you know, how on earth would you improve if you don't have a clear picture of your current performance and where you can improve. So this report actually lays out at Appendix A, I've got the right title for the appendix this time, a calendar of how those different reports, discussions, workshops, etc. will happen, and how they will all build together to help people to understand the current performance of the council, how to scrutinise it, and how then to go forward to improve that performance. So that's all laid out at Appendix A. And I said it's very much a sort of a housekeeping type thing, and this will very much involve members as we go forward, and there'll also be different workshops for scrutiny chairs as well to go into it in more depth. So the recommendations that we have in relation to this calendar is that Cabinet consider and endorse the Vale of Glamorgan annual performance calendar for 2022-23 and the proposed approach to engaging with members in year to shape and refine the annual performance calendar and associated processes, plans and reports to enable us to meet the new performance requirements. That Cabinet refers the report to all scrutiny committees, so we'll be having further discussion of this report within scrutinies, and also the Governance and Audit Committee for their consideration. Any views, or with any views being referred back to Cabinet, should scrutiny committee, I would say, or any of the others, make no further comments, Cabinet would consider the annual performance calendar for 2022-23 as agreed, and I'd so move.
And I'll second those recommendations, Leader.
Thank you, Bronwyn. And welcome, Rhiannon. I hope you really enjoyed the visit to Ysgol Derry today. I was really sad to miss that.
I did. In fact, the email I'm just about to send Chris Britton detailing all of the marvellous food I ate, I can copy you all into it if you like.
Oh, no, that's just too much.
That would be too cruel, wouldn't it? Yes.
Too much. We've been stuck in the office, but never mind. Super. So getting on to agenda item 7, which.
Sorry, Leader. Just want to make a comment regarding that the report we just moved. It's good to have an overview of all the different reports coming through and to see where the involvement, and we've been involved in the peer challenges, looking at different directors and their areas of work, and that's been an education on for me on that side of things. And I'm hoping that this plan that we've got allows members to see when they're asking for more information, there is probably a place that it's already covered off, particularly when we're talking about performance. And you can see also that it's a through-year thing. It's not just something we're just going to suddenly appear from nowhere. So just wanted to make that comment. Sorry about that.
No, don't. I think that's a really good point, Eddie. And because so often we have all these reams of reports, it's very difficult to understand, unless you're a bit of an anorak like we tend to be, that where they all fit together, and this actually helps to put that thread through it, and then it also links in with the different service plans so that you can see why we're doing everything, what we hope to achieve, and then you can actually monitor and decide whether you've achieved that. So no, I think it'll be very good going forward. So I was rushing forward in my excitement to agenda item 7, which is something that actually exercises a lot of us. You know, the average councillor cannot take a walk around their local community without photographing potholes. Sometimes these days it's difficult to find them, so that's quite positive. So I shall, without further ado, I'll hand over to Mark, who's going to take us through the highway maintenance 3-year plan from 2022 to 2024.
Thank you for that introduction, Leader. What I'd like to do first of all is go through what we call the key issues for consideration on the report, which are on page 4, page 5, and so first of all, the first consideration is obviously this is a 3-year plan, okay, and that's very important to establish for 22, 23 and 24. And what we're trying to do, we're trying to look at roads in terms of what can we do to resurface roads, but also look at the type of measures that we replace. So basically, we've got a situation where we have what we call a scoring matrix. Now, I like to refer members and public to Appendix B. Now, Appendix B basically lines out the allocation of priority, what we call prioritisation scoring system. So obviously it depends on the type of road that we're looking at in terms of road servicing. We also look at the ScanA survey data. We look at the visual assessment. Obviously we look at the engineer's assessment. We look at any third-party claims. We look at any complaints, and we look at bus routes, including school routes as well. And we also look at maintenance costs. And the theoretical maximum there is 400. Now, obviously, what we look at is we assess this, and anything over 210, we allocate as a priority for resurfacing, which is on Appendix A. Okay. Now, obviously, Appendix A represents those highways which are in particular used, and therefore will have what we call a high scoring. So anything over 210 will be seen as priority. Now, that doesn't mean we don't look at anything below 210. In fact, we do. And we're quite willing to reassess anything around 205, 200 to see if they can be prioritised. Now, obviously, we have an allocation of funding of £2.3 million for surfacing. OK, now, obviously, of that 2.3 million, some of it will also be used for what we call preventative measures, which is what we call micro asphalt. And that, if you look on the following page, we got various schemes all over the Vale of Glamorgan, including places like Wenbo, St Nicholas, Barry, Sully, Dennis, Roos, Trios. So we've got different areas of the Vale which are from Microsoft. Now, often that is a cheaper work, but it's just as effective. And what it will do, hopefully, prevent any work getting worse. So it's important that that does. And what I also like to point out to residents and fellow councillors is that these works, okay, will be reassessed. This is not a done deal in the sense we do have a list. Obviously, we want to do that. But if members bring it attention to myself and to officers that there are roads which are very much needed, and obviously weather can have a big impact upon this. And I'm very pleased to have a look at it and to perhaps reassess it. And I'm sure if you bring it to our attention, we will take it seriously and we can amend it. OK, so going back to the financial implications on 5.1, as you can see, we've allocated £2.3 million, but in addition, there's also £200,000 for footway repairs. And that's very important because what we want to promote is more active travel within the community. And therefore, it's absolutely vital that we get people walking and cycling and finding ways to get around the Vale, because as we know, we are committed to stop climate change as much as we can. And we've got our fantastic Project Zero. So it's very much part of that agenda. But also, I have to point out, we've got £971,000 for pothole repairs as well for 22-23. And as you may know, you can use C1V, what we call Contact One Rail. You don't have to phone up the call centre. You can do it for various means, all right, to contact them via the website, via the app, to actually take pictures of any potholes, report it, and hopefully we can come round and sort it. So, you know, we do have that initiative, and that will come from our revenue fund, that 971,000 from our capital fund. Now, I don't know if any member would like to come in now and say anything before I move to any recommendations. So open to other cabinet members. Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. I mean, that's a fantastic report. It's really good to see how it's laid out, so that actually it's quite user friendly, and you can actually look at it and actually work out how it's evaluated, and how obviously it's a bit of a moving piece as well. But I suppose I just wanted to just sort of highlight really about the inclusion now of active travel within this 3-year plan, and I think that's really important for us as a council going forward with our active travel plans that we've set out now for the next 5 years, and also then in conjunction with Welsh Government. So I do thank you for that inclusion in that report. I think that's really important for us as a council going forward, and actually joins up the work that we're trying to do with the roads, and so that they are safe for everybody. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Leader. Would anyone else like to make any comments? Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to move to the recommendations in this case then. First of all, the first recommendation is that we note the content of highway and 3-year maintenance plan as attached to Appendix A and agree in principle priority location for resurfacing works, number 1. Number 2, that the Director of the Environment and Housing be authorised to amend the plan in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Neighbourhood and Building Services if urgent highways priorities are identified. And number 3, that this is matters referred to July 2022 Scrutiny Committee for its consideration. And I will be present at that meeting to see what members feel, what they will see, take account their views. And number 4, that subject to no comments that would affect the plan proposed being received from the scrutiny meeting, the Highway 3-year maintenance resurfacing plan in 22, and his little typo should say 2022 to 2024, because we're going forward, we don't go backwards in time, don't we? And the final point here, that in future years, the criteria for road scoring is reviewed to better consider issues such as active travel and other routes that may be used for cycling. So I'd like to so move.
And I'm very happy to second. And thank you, Mark, for an excellent report. And I think if people are able to find the time to read it, they'll actually learn a whole amount. I'm looking forward to your to a video of how to fill potholes, because I think there was one done about 5 years ago, and it would be great, wouldn't it? It would be lovely to have a how we deal with potholes video, but that's just me rambling. Thank you. Anyway, thank you ever so much, and
thank you.
We shall move on. Agenda item 8, and this is actually quite an important report as we move forward into the replacement local development plan. This is to do with the draft integrated sustainability appraisal, and it's a scoping report, and I'll hand over to Ruba for this one.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to bring this draft integrated sustainability appraisal scoping report. I'm going to call it an ISA from now on, so I don't have to stumble over that again. And the preparation of this scoping report is the first stage in the ISA process. And it's largely an evidence gathering exercise. It includes a review of the plans, programs, strategies, policies that are all relevant in the preparation of the revised LDP. But crucially, it goes together with a review of the environmental, social and economic sort of baseline characteristics within the Vale of Glamorgan, and you'll see in the draft ISA scoping report, Chair, that there are a list of let me just, I think about 10, yes, about 10 specific themes that have been highlighted that, I mean, you know, these are sort of very quite broad themes which would be relevant to other local authorities, for example, but you'll see in the report, which is, as you've already said, Chair, is a very sort of lengthy, detailed report. Those 10 themes, key themes, so economy and employment, population and communities, health and well-being, equality, diversity, inclusion, climate change, transportation, natural resources, biodiversity and geodiversity, historic environment and landscape, will all be looked at, have all been looked at specifically for the Vale of Glamorgan. And I should highlight, so for example, something very specific to us would be, you know, so looking at not developing on flood land, for example, in, you know, that was relevant in the last couple of years, say in Sully and Dinas Powers, for example. So, you know, it is very specific to us, and it is wide ranging. Chair, it might be useful if I just provide a little bit of background in terms of you know, why we're doing this now. As many of you, the Cabinet will know that our LDP was agreed in 2017, and it became part of the Council's planning policy framework about how we use our land in the Vale of Glamorgan. And so, and it forms, and as you said, it's very important because it you know, it forms the basis of our decision making, and ensures the most efficient use of land. So in October 2020, you'll remember that Cabinet endorsed a recommendation to commence a full review of the LDP, and that was then agreed at full council. The first stage of preparing the replacement LDP is the production of a delivery agreement, which will have the timetable for the preparation of the replacement LDP. And again, crucially, from my point of view and my portfolio, it comes together with the community involvement scheme, which sets out how we will consult with the community and stakeholders, including, you know, statutory bodies. So there was a public consultation around that agreement, and as I say, that was agreed in full council. And this report, this draft report rather, that we're looking at now, it really is about the sustainability element of the local development plan, which has to inform the eventual revised local development plan that we produce. So sustainable development is at the heart of the development plan process, and it's a legal requirement also. So, you know, we are fulfilling our legal obligations. But Chair, one thing to highlight about this this scoping exercise is it is integrating you know, lots of elements which previously we have done sort of piecemeal. So equality impact assessments, looking at the, you know, looking at our obligations under the Future Generations and Wellbeing Act, looking at you know, environmental impact, the, you know, climate impact. This brings together all of those elements, and you know, that's why it is quite a sort of weighty report. And I think that's a really good approach, because this report, you know, all officers were consulted in this report, and as I say, you know, it is wide ranging, and I think it really is a holistic approach to the sustainability issue, which has to inform our local development plan. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments on that, Chair, before I'm moved to the recommendations. Actually, I can't see any of you.
Oh, actually, Bronwyn's got.
Bronwyn, yeah, sorry, Bronwyn.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Ruba. Really interesting report. And I think for myself, as part of my portfolio, is about that sustainable approach and about sustainable development, and how that really is at the very core of this report, and about that scoping report as well, and about taking in that bigger picture, as you mentioned, about the holistic view of what we're going to be doing moving forward, and how it'll impact everything, and how it'll influence everything, and then that also takes into account then, and refers to then, is the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act, which again I think is so important for us going forward, and for our future generations, and this is what we're doing, this is what we're laying down those plans for that. So I do welcome this report, and I think it's going to be a great piece of work, and look forward to seeing the results of that consultation. Thank you, Ruba.
Thanks, Bronwyn. I mean, it's worth just highlighting the fact that the scoping report is the first stage of creating the ISA, which I'll remind you is the Integrated Sustainability Appraisal scoping report. And then the other stages are will be the appraisal of any alternatives. There'll be an assessment of the deposit plan and preparation of the actual report, the sustainability report, and then crucially, at the fourth stage, there'll be a consultation, so an examination, and then the adoption of the plan. And then, of course, the final stage will be around monitoring. And in terms of sort of next steps in terms of following this, there will be consultation on this once Cabinet have agreed the recommendations, and that will require consultation with statutory bodies like Natural Resources Wales, CADU, and that will go for 5 weeks. If I'm correct, from sort of the last week of August into September. So August, September will be the consultation period on this. So if I may, Chair, move to the recommendations. So there are 4 recommendations on this report. The first is that that Cabinet considers and endorses the draft Integrated Sustainability Appraisal Scoping Report for the purposes of public consultation. And secondly, that the 5-week public consultation is undertaken on the draft integrated ISA, and thirdly, that a follow-up report on the outcome of the public consultation and any proposed changes is prepared and considered by Cabinet, obviously following that 5-week period. And finally, that delegated authority be granted to the Director of Place in consultation with the Cabinet Member for Community Engagement, Equalities and Regulatory Services to make any minor changes to the draft scoping report as necessary prior to publication. So I'd ask us to agree those recommendations, Chair.
Thank you, Ruba. I'm happy to second those. I think it's good that in as much as, very little that we do in life doesn't have impact on other areas. And historically, where the existing LDP would tend to consider everything separately, it didn't tend to look at how those different areas impacted on others. And I think this will be very interesting to see how this works out. I don't know if I missed it. Did you say that we were trying to arrange some briefings for members in the near future, if we can?
Yes, but that another part of this process, there will be a briefing looking at our strategy, so sort of pre-consultation process, Chair. But that's slightly separate to this. Yes.
Great, super. I just wanted to clarify that. That's super. So yes, so we've had it moved and seconded. Is everybody in agreement with that? Excellent. Well, under agenda item 9, I don't have any items which are urgent. Neither do I have any part 2 items urgent or non-urgent. So on that, I thank you all for your participation today and close the meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.